Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean, beautiful down in Southern California. PORSBR.bsky.social. This is where you can find me, and then Ryan's at RHOLM22 on Twitter. You can find all those beautiful. It's next level. The arrows, the diagrams for the all 22. It's just like, I mean, if it was on ESPN, you wouldn't even say nothing of it. You'd be like, oh, it's on ESPN. Like, what channel is this guy on? You know what I'm saying? So just check those out there as well. And we'll go over some of those all 22 things, reviews as well. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing good. It's a cold day in Southern California, at least where I'm at. And
today was all right. Today was all right.
It's been like 70, a little chilly in the morning. I would say I've been using the same editing program for 6 years now. So what used to take about 5 hours takes about an hour and a half to get all the stuff on there. So I've got it down pretty good now.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. Practice makes perfect, if you will. You asked, we text back and forth all week, and you asked the question, and I want the fans to give me an answer to it. You asked, is there better workout music than DMX? If there is, let me know, because I really can't think. When you're at the gym, I really can't think of any more. That voice just makes you want to keep working out. So rest in peace to DMX, if you will. Let's start off with some of your questions. I think the first one is from a Raider fan who wants to know what is a love affair with AOC. I think, and I'll just go real quick. I just, for some reason, we love our uniform, because the uniform is one of the best in all sports. And when somebody gets in that uniform, we just think they're good. And I don't know what the issue is. I'm still waiting for a team to sign Hunter Renfrow. It's like we overrate who's on our squad. He is a quality backup. That's okay. You can make a fine living being a quality backup. If you have a top line starter and you have him coming in to spell you for 2 or 3 weeks, he can go 1-2 or 2-1, depending on who you're playing and everything like that. What are your thoughts about the AOC love affair?
I think it goes back to the pride in the team and that he was drafted by the Raiders. So they want him to be good because he's theirs. He's not a retread. He didn't come from somewhere else. He was fine this week. I watched the all 22. He didn't play nearly as well as that stat line indicates. We can get into some of that later, but I think he's a solid player that can be on the roster. He can be a functional backup. He can be a guy that can come in and spell, but you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and now Bo Nix. And you're in the AFC where you can still throw in Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Like, you need a guy that can compete with those players. And Aiden O'Connell is not that. Can he be good enough if you play him for 17 games, if everything around him gets good? This sounds familiar because this is what we did for 9 or 10 years in the past.
We did.
To get you to 8, 9, 10 wins. Yeah, I guess in a perfect world he could. That's not the goal. The goal is to win a championship, and is to win a Super Bowl, and it's to win a division. Aiden O'Connell doesn't have that level of ability. If the pocket holds up, can he make the reads? Can he get the ball out? Yeah, he can do that. People need to stop posting Tom Brady pictures and writing Aiden O'Connell. He is not Tom Brady. He will never be Tom Brady, and we just need to move on and find a guy that can come in and be a franchise quarterback. That's not saying that Aiden O'Connell is not going to play a long time in this league, because he probably will.
Yeah.
I don't see him winning any sort of MVPs. I don't see him going to the Pro Bowl. I don't see him leading the league in any passing categories. Like, we need to just slow down a little bit on the Aiden O'Connell hype off of one game, because if you watch the All-22, the Chiefs dared them to throw the ball down the field.
Mhm.
They were coming down on all the crossing routes. They were doubling guys underneath and saying, hey, throw it over the top. And he did that. Credit to Aiden O'Connell for doing that. There was also a lot of throws in this game that Aiden O'Connell wants back. And there was a couple of plays that could have been touchdowns had he made better passes
Yes.
to them. So let's remember they had 3 points halfway through the third quarter. It's not like they went out there and lit up the scoreboard and they still only scored 17 points. And I get it, they missed 3 field goals, but all of those field goals were over 55 yards. It's not like they were getting down into the red zone and missing chip shots. Like 55, 56, 58 yards and 30-degree weather on the road in the hostile environment aren't easy kicks.
They're not. They're not. Not in any way. Next one is. It seems to me that Colton Miller is really struggling right now. Do you think you think the Raiders should consider moving on from Colton Miller?
No, I would keep Colton Miller.
Mhm.
I did post the one play if people want to go to my Twitter account where he gave up the sack where Aiden O'Connell kind of faded back. They had the ball on the 22-yard line. He faded back, took a 15-yard sack, knocked him out of field goal range. It was an unfortunate play where he stepped on Jordan Meredith's foot. He didn't really get beat. He basically stepped on that guy's foot and lost his balance.
Mhm.
I think Colton Miller's been playing really well the last 5 or 6 weeks. Now remember, he had no offseason, no OTAs. He had shoulder surgery. Didn't have hardly had any snaps leading up to week one. And it took him a few weeks to round into shape. Now, should the Raiders extend him? I would say probably not. Let's let him play another year and see. But I think they should also be in the market for an offensive tackle high in this draft. If it's best player available in the second or third round, add him to the roster and see what happens with Colton Miller next year. But we need to stop acting like Colton Miller is a bottom five left tackle in the NFL because he's not.
Okay. That makes sense. Makes sense. What is it going to take for the Raiders to just give McCormick 20 carries? What the hell? He's young anyway. Why not just force feed him to see what he has? I mean, maybe we got something here with Sincere.
Well, first of all, to get 20 carries, they need to get a lead in a game
Yeah,
and get up, which they haven't
sure,
done.
sure.
Um, I did tweet out today. He needs 15 plus carries moving forward. He needs to be running back one.
Yes.
The balance, the vision, the cutback ability, that stuff we haven't seen from any of the Raiders running backs on their roster this year. So he's deserved the right to get, 12, 15 carries a week going forward. I will say this, his pass protection against the Chiefs when he was forced into pass protection was not good. He had a safety run right around him on a play where he just
Yeah.
completely whiffed. So that needs to improve for him to stay on the field on third down. But I do think on first and second down going forward, he should be heavily involved in the game plan.
Yeah, Raiders fall to the Chiefs. We know that. So 17-19 fall to 2-10. 2-10 now. Good times, good times. As far as that goes. So let's go with some all 22 here. Thank you for the questions. Questions, keep those coming in. We got some voice. You want to do some voicemails too? Feel free to leave leave a voicemail as well. We have this is you got the G lead with Parham pulling, and then you got Mayer involved in this one too, as well as DJ Glaze.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of G Lead. I don't think the Raiders have run it this year. This is something they put in for this game. They actually ran it 3 or 4 times. And if they have it, it was once or twice early. But I think this is Turner, Norv Turner. G Lead is just simply the guard on the play side is going to pull. You're going to down block from the tackle and the tight end. And basically, you're going to have the center climb to the second level, but the guard has to get the linebacker. He's going to pull around and look for linebacker. The only way you can run this play is if your tight end can actually block a defensive end one-on-one because the tight end's getting no help here, and Michael Mayer does a fabulous job. He actually
Yeah,
pancakes.
pay, yeah, he did.
I believe it's Karlaftis. I don't have it in front of me, but the down block here by DJ Glaze is impressive. It's against Chris Jones. Then obviously you have Karlaftis getting blocked one-on-one by Mayer. Parham's going to kick out the linebacker, and JPJ gets to the second level and kind of seals them off. So great job here. Sincere McCormick hits it right off the block of DJ Glaze, and he's able to run through an arm tackle and get 17 yards. They ran this play later the other side with Jordan Meredith. They actually ran it again later in the game, and Nick Bolton knew it was coming, and he basically beat Meredith to the corner. But I like that they've added this to the running game. They ran a lot of power concepts this week, and they have been, honestly, for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, you say power, and Raider fans get really excited. Maybe it's coming from the Darren McFadden days, but people don't want to run. People don't want the Raiders to
No zone.
run zone at all as far as that goes. Let's see here. We got the next one we had. Oh, the Tucker touchdown. Kind of break that one down too. Was a nice play. It was kind of the play where I thought maybe the Raiders had a chance to win this game. A deep pass down the left sideline from Aiden O'Connell to Trey Tucker.
Yeah, it's 1st and 10. The Raiders are going to take a shot near midfield. You kind of have it's 12 personnel, so you have two wideouts, two tight ends, but you have the two tight ends off to the same side to the right is where Trey Tucker is. So it's almost like a mini bunch formation. The key here is the Chiefs are blitzing and they're in man coverage. So when you motion Tucker across, he gets a running start and he can hit it upfield full gear. You see the corner stay with Myers and he wants the safety to bump out. A safety is not going to be able to run with Trey Tucker here. Great job by Aiden O'Connell stepping up and getting rid of this ball because he is under pressure. It's just a good opportunity to see them throw the ball down the field again. The Chiefs in this game were begging the Raiders to throw the ball down the field. I think there was a good adjustment here by Scott Turner. They started taking shots like midway through the third quarter and into the fourth quarter. Not so much early, other than the one ball that was an underthrow to Myers that should have been a touchdown early in the first quarter. But I like to get Trey Tucker moving because he's really struggled, at least against press against better corners. They're able to get their hands on him. You can't press the guy if he's running in motion. He's basically running a go route, almost like a wheel route up the sideline.
It's almost like in Canadian football where they get that running head start. I mean, so when you put him in motion, it's hard to, like you mentioned, it's hard to touch him at the line of scrimmage. The next one we have Bowers' touchdown here. What do we see from the guy who possibly could be the rookie of the year?
Again, more play action. We saw a lot of play action. This is 2nd and 17. They're in 13 personnel, so they have three tight ends on the field and one wide receiver. And the key here is you have Tucker running the vertical route, kind of like a deep over, and he's occupying that safety, that single high middle of the field safety. Brock Bowers, this should have been a penalty. This should have been a penalty for illegal contact. The linebacker here is riding him 10, 12 yards down the field. But you see Bowers is able to swipe that guy off of him and create separation. And again, Aiden O'Connell steps up in the pocket and lofts this ball over the corner. Again, they're taking away the underneath stuff. So you see this corner kind of jump this little hook route or curl route by I think it's Justin Shorter is the tight end number 88. So he should be playing deep and let them throw the ball underneath, but the Chiefs were daring them to throw the ball up top. So it was good to see Aiden O'Connell step up and to see the ball skills by a guy he's basically a tight end. He's a wide receiver in a tight end's body. The speed, the concentration, the hands, the ability to create separation late, get open, and then finish at the goal line and get over. Brock Bowers is special. So it's good to see the Raiders getting him involved and Norv Turner and Scott Turner doing a good job of finding ways to get him open. I don't know if I call for a play action on 2nd and 17, but the Chiefs did. So credit to the Raiders for dialing that.
That's the first thing I thought of when I saw this play. I thought about that immediately. I was like, what? I mean, why would you be falling for that? It's kind of like that the deep pass that Bo Nix threw. I don't know how the hell anybody's behind you. 3rd and 11, and he's behind his 2-yard line, and
inverted cover too. So you have the corner has to get all the way back to cover that deep pass up the seam. He couldn't do it.
I'm not sure what that was about. That was crazy as far as that goes. But I think we hit all three plays there. So go out there and follow Ryan. And you can see some more. I know there's a bunch of people who are doing that, and some of these, one of them, I think they get up to like a lot of views. So right now, I think you're at 4,000 views on a couple of these, so that's good work by you.
And shout out to Jackson Powers Johnson's mother for following me and liking some of these videos. So,
hey, listen, hey,
we got the mothers following us. So.
yeah, she saw her son pancaking people, so she's excited now. She's excited. Good to see that at the very least. Because none of us, I mean, listen, this is no fault to the other center, but I think once we got JPJ, we didn't want to have him play guard. I think we all want him to have him play center. And he's doing a really good job. As far as that goes, shout out to Mama. Mama Powers Johnson. As far
She's
as that
also a
is.
JPJ. I think her first name was Jen.
Is
So
it? Is
she's a
it?
JPJ
She's
as well.
JPJ as well. There you go. There you go. So you got double JPJs there. So let's get off of this subject for a little bit, and we'll come back to it. But like, I want to talk about Travis Hunter and the love affair that Raider fans have with Travis Hunter, because it could be just engagement farming. It could be a lot of that, or it could be just like people really believe that he would be the better pick than taking a quarterback. I think when you're watching this division and you have, like you mentioned before, you have Bo Nix, you got Herbert, you have Mahomes, you got Reed, Sean Payton, and then you have Harbaugh. Like, you have to kind of hit the quarter the hit the head coach, and you got to hit the quarterback. You just have to. I know they, even if you overdraft, you kind of have to see what you can get in that situation, because if you come back with just Travis Hunter, and then I saw a couple people draft Dylan Gabriel. Um,
I've seen a lot of that.
yeah, so I saw a
We
lot
like
of,
5'11", 25-year-old left-handed quarterbacks that have
yes,
been
I
draft eligible
mean,
for three
yeah,
years.
exactly. So yeah, he's here. I mean, you think Bo Nix is old. But what are your thoughts about Travis Hunter? It is interesting. I was going through draft rankings, and they don't rank him as a corner or a wide receiver. It just says athlete. And it's like, is that a way of just not like ranking him as a actual as a player at one of those positions? Because I want to see where he ranks with how you rank him against with other corners and other wide receivers going into this draft.
Well, it's funny you asked that because I actually did a mock draft a couple of weeks ago and I actually had the Raiders when they were picking fifth, taking Travis Hunter, and I had some pushback, people saying that Travis Hunter is not a first round talent. I don't know where people are getting that information. And then you have the other side of the coin that they're all in for Travis Hunter over a quarterback at this point, take best player available. If the Raiders pick in the top three, I would be disappointed if they took Travis Hunter over the other two quarterbacks. That's not saying if I had to rank a big board, I would probably have Travis Hunter over the two quarterbacks. But now you're talking about positional need. Quarterback is the most important position in football.
In all team
Travis,
sports.
Travis Hunter, in in my opinion, is not the best wide receiver in the draft. I would probably lean McMillan at Arizona.
Yes. Okay.
As far as corner, I would put him at like 1A, 1B. I don't think he's that different than Will Johnson, and I think Will Johnson offers a little bit more size. Travis Hunter is a phenomenal football player, first and foremost. The idea that people think Travis Hunter can play both ways full time in the National Football League, I don't see that. I think the best way to get value out of Travis Hunter is play corner, let him play corner full time, and then find packages on offense to bring him in. I think it'd be very difficult to play wide receiver and then bring him in defensively on third downs or something like that,
Yeah.
because teams would be able to pick up on that. So I don't. But the fact that he's doing it in college is awesome for the kid. I love that. But do I think he's going to do that in the national football? I don't think you have enough time to sit in all the meetings, understand the defensive game plan, the offensive game plan, the packages on offense, where to line up, all the different routes you'd have to do as a wide receiver, and also go out and be a top tier cornerback. I think he can be a Pro Bowl cornerback, like I said, with elite ball skills.
Mhm.
Um, he's slight. He's not a big physical guy. I don't think he's going to be a great red zone threat as a wide receiver, other than possibly quick screens or getting the ball in his hands and just letting him being an athlete.
Mhm.
For me, he's a corner for me that has a chance to offer you some upside on offense in certain packages. I don't think I would take that over a quarterback.
Yes.
And
I
I,
mean,
and I love Travis Hunter as a pure football player. He's an elite pure football player.
yeah. And I think also too is that, think about it. Think about this for 1 second, Raider fans. Think about it for 1 second. Okay. Think about it for 1 second. You have a situation here where you have people who play full time wide receiver and full time corner who can't get through a 17 game season when they just play that one position. So now you're asking this kid to play both sides in the National Football League. Like, I just don't, I mean, all the time. as many snaps as he's taken right now at Colorado.
That'd be like playing 34 games. Like you just can't do it. And
Yeah,
he's not a
you can't.
physical guy either.
You can't. DeCorian Bennett was showing some promise, and boom, he's out for the year. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very difficult to do that. And I just, I think it's gonna help him lead him to the Heisman. I would give it to.
I would vote for Genty.
I would vote for Genty. I want to give the running back a little bit of love in that position, because growing up, that's who won the Heisman's was running backs, and he's had such a great year. I would personally give it to him, especially when you look at the stats for Travis Hunter, and they make sure they put snaps as far as one of his stats is like.
I don't care about snaps.
I don't care about snaps either, dude. That's crazy. So I would give it to Genty, and we'll take it from there. But I just don't. The love affair part of it is like BPA. Oh, he's the best player. Like at some point, I mean, to sit here and just like keep ignoring the obvious, the elephant in the room with this franchise for for another season. It's just like I mean, honestly, walk out of this draft with 2 quarterbacks. Like it just like I mean, seriously, if Nussmeier comes out and he's graded like a 4th or 5th round, grab him too. Like they need to stop sitting on the sidelines when it comes to the quarterback market in the draft. They just have to.
Now, if the Raiders somehow win a game or two and they fall down to, let's say, 6 in the draft, and Travis Hunter's there at 6, then by all means take Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
But I'm not passing up, and I don't love Sanders or Ward. I think there's a real world where Sanders ends up being the version that Geno Smith is now, and that's still a quality quarterback in the NFL. And I think Cam Ward, and we've talked about this, Cam Ward's upside is probably Donovan McNabb, but Cam Ward might not be that. He might be below that if he can't the turnover worthy plays. I don't think either one of them is an elite athlete. They're good athletes. They're not elite athletes. They don't have elite arm strength. They have good arm strength. So it's just so hard to find a quarterback in the National Football League. You can't go get one. You can't you can't really trade for him. And all this, I do want to mention the Sam Darnold talk, because that's picked up lately. Like, Sam Darnold's been on 4 different teams, and he had a good 4 or 5 week run. Sam Darnold has not been great the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, his team has carried him.
What's to make people think that Sam Darnold wants to play for the Raiders? If Aiden O'Connell's on the roster and he has a couple of good games down the stretch, why would he want to sign with a team that might take a quarterback early? Definitely will take a quarterback at some point, hopefully. And Aiden O'Connell's on the roster, and he's coming into a division where he has to play against the other 3 quarterbacks in the division when he's going to have other opportunities in the National Football League. The market for Sam Darnold is going to be somewhere in the $25 to $30 million range, I would think, like based on what he's played. The top guys are getting $50 to $60 million. I would think someone out there is willing to give Sam Darnold somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 to $30 million for a couple of years. I'm not one of those. I would not do that. I would rather just take a quarterback, get him on a rookie deal, and avoid that. Spend the money on other positions and go get your quarterback in the draft.
Yes, 100%. And I always say this. Once I say 1,000 times, I think there's part of Raider Nation who are just worried about the quarterback flopping, and
it might happen, but you're never going to get one unless you pick them.
Exactly. But I'm just like, do you want me to go through position by position, whether it's tackle, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's
go back
cornerback?
To Tyree Wilson. They took Tyree Wilson at 7. I would rather take a shot at a quarterback that didn't work out than get what happened with the Tyree Wilson pick.
100%. And like you can easily. It's not, again. If I hear the Jamarcus Russell thing again, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth. Like at the end of the day, like those days are over. Those contracts are not taking place where you have to pay them a shitload of money to come in. Like you can flip and go through quarterbacks until you find
2 years and you can move on.
Exactly. 100%. As far as that goes, the Albert Breer report talking about AP and his future with the Raiders. It's kind of like the same thing. Like he said that people are worried about their position.
There's no guarantees. They haven't been told anything.
There's no
What's the key takeaway?
there's no guarantees. So like it's late in the season. So obviously, like, hey, make plans. I mean, don't, like make sure you talk to that landlord out there in Vegas. You know what I mean? As far as that goes. So and he also mentioned that the Raiders definitely need a quarterback. And like the question that we have for everybody is Antonio Pierce the guy who can usher in and help develop a young quarterback?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would lean no. The Luke Getsy hire kind of put a sour taste in everyone's mouth.
Yep.
Um, it's going to be interesting. He used the word mandate. Like everyone's going to spin this to say, well, Mark Davis is telling him he has to take a quarterback. I think everyone and their brother and their sister and their cousin knows the Raiders need a quarterback, and they need to take one, especially if they're in the top three, because of the division they play in and the quarterbacks and the head coaches they have to go up against. Do I think Antonio Pierce is the right guy to mold a quarterback? No, it's going to be the offensive coordinator. Like
Yep.
Antonio Pierce is not the guy that's going to be with them, calling plays, sitting through meetings with him, going through the offense, going through the finer details of everything the quarterback needs to do on any given play. That's not what Antonio Pierce does. He's more of a motivator. He's not an X's and O's guys as far as getting in the offensive meetings or the defensive meetings. He's never been a coordinator in the National Football League. He's been a linebackers coach. So um, unless he can pull an offensive coordinator out of a hat that's going to stick around for a while, and then you have to
Mhm.
ask yourself if that offense, if let's say they do have success, let's say Antonio Pierce stays, he hires an OC, the quarterback 2 years from now turns out to be a good player, a top 10 quarterback in the league. That offensive coordinator is going to be on short list to get hired elsewhere, so he's going to have to continually hire them.
Mhm.
Um, at which point you need to build a staff and you need to get young assistant coaches underneath that offense coordinator and
Who
keep
can step
everything
in?
similar.
Yeah.
And then when you lose an offensive coordinator, you replace them internally. The Raiders are nowhere near that.
Yeah, not at all. Not in any way whatsoever, as far as that goes. But you can read that. You can read the Albert Beer piece on. I think it's on Sports Illustrated. Um, the myth of Scott Turner. And I would just say, like, when I say the myth of Scott Turner is, I'm just all about like, what are you scoring? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it may look. I mean, just because it's different, just because it may, if it's different, that's fine. But like, is it really producing better results? He's averaging like 18.5 a game. Guess he averaged 18 a game. Neither one is acceptable at all. Um, I at time he might run a style that's a little bit more um you know acceptable for Raider fans, and he doesn't have the like the baggage that a guy like Luke Getsy has, because like, people just hear Luke Getsy and they just know that they want to just turn off the TV because they just feel like he's just awful at his job, and he was awful at his job.
Scott Turner's done a good job for what they've asked him to do, to basically take over this offense. He's done a good job of
Mid-season.
installing some plays, changing the run scheme a little bit. Is it more fun to watch on all 22? Yeah, it's a lot more fun to watch on all 22. But like you said, the bottom line is they're still not scoring a ton of points, and this team needs to score points to win games. Do I think he can be a serviceable play caller? Yeah, I do. Like I said, I do think that he finds ways to get matchups for his guys, whether that's like we just talked about earlier, the motion play with Trey Tucker to get him open. He's found ways to unlock Brock Bowers to another level. He's gotten the ball to Jacoby Myers. They've run the ball a little bit better. They're still not great on third down. They're not good at all on fourth down, and they still aren't getting to the red zone very often. So those things still matter. Third down, red zone matter, and then again, we can talk about the missed field goals in Kansas City, but all of those three of those field goals were from 55 plus. It's not like they were getting down to the red zone and stalling out, or he was missing 42-yard field goals. That's not what was happening.
That's crazy. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean that's what it is as far as that goes. We did have a voicemail. Let me just see if I can get this up for you. See if you can hear this one. You should be able to hear it. Let's play this one for you. Let's see here if I can get this here.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking my question. This is directed towards Mark Davis, but still tied in with the current regime. And it is this. most of us expect the Raiders to draft a quarterback next year. But in your opinion, what's the chance Mark Davis gives AP another season to allow him to develop a newly drafted QB? And I'll land my plane there. Appreciate you guys.
Cool. So what are your thoughts about that question? This is FD. He's a season ticket holder for the Raiders.
Well, today's December 3rd, I believe. I would put it at about 20% chance that AP comes back. If they can go on a run here, if they can win 2 or 3 games down the stretch. The problem is if you win 2 or 3 games down the stretch, now you're not going to be in a position to take the quarterback. So I think that's a collective decision that's going to happen after the season between Tom Brady, Tom Telesco, and Mark Davis. Like, what do they want to do? Do they want to bring AP back? If AP comes back, AP has to have an absolute stamped, signed approval. These are my 2 or 3 offensive coordinators I'm going to go after, and they have to get one. It can't be where you just settle for Luke Getsy like he did last year, because if you draft a quarterback, this can't be where if this thing gets off the rails early next year, you can't fire AP in the middle of the season. Okay. And you're just setting back the rookie quarterback if you have to do that. I still like AP to a degree, but the thing that holds me back the most about AP is the game management and the situational stuff that happens as a head coach. He's not calling plays on offense. He's not calling plays on defense. The hesitation to send the kicker out with 2.5 minutes left in that game against Kansas City and then burning a timeout that they would have needed or would have loved to have on that last drive. The indecision on what to do there at the end of the game in the last 26 seconds after they get the ball to Abdullah, like, do they spike it? When do they spike it? Getting out of the huddle with 9 seconds left. Like, these are all things like that kind of the AP hasn't got better at. And we've talked about that. He needs to show improvement as a game manager because that's his job. His job is to run the game and sit and be able to make calls. Like we saw Sean Payton on Monday night go for it on 4th down. There was no hesitation. He was going for it. Like, I'm going for it. And like, there's just too much indecision right now when it comes to crucial plays in the game. Saving timeouts. Like, he likes to burn timeouts. He's done it 2 of the last 3 weeks, calling a timeout on defense on 3rd down in the first half in the red zone and still giving up touchdowns after that. So I would say 20%. Do I trust AP to develop the quarterback? No, because AP's not the one, like we talked about. He's not going to be the one developing the quarterback. It's going to be the offensive coordinator that comes in and runs the offense. AP doesn't run the offense. And then obviously the quarterback coach will play a big part in that as well.
I would say this for one of the guys who is in our Raiders in my Raiders chat, or our general chat, had a question for Raider Nation about AP, and the question was, what is he good at? And I think that's something where, and that question is like, hey, like, I
still think he motivates the team pretty well. Like the players haven't quit. Yeah. Now, I thought it was just win, baby. I think we've kind of settled to just don't quit, baby. Just be competitive, baby. Like that doesn't fly with me. Like, your job is to win 100%. Football. This is the National Football League. Your job is to win games.
Yeah.
And it's not to put a competitive product out there once every 4 weeks.
And I think more of it was like, hey, like, Tomlin had a defensive background. That they've been pretty good on defense for years. He hasn't won a playoff game in a while. Too. I mean, but he still he won games with Kenny Pickett. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, everybody's trying to have the next Lions head coach. Like every good coach has like their staple of what it is, of what they do well. I think that's kind of the premise of it. And it's like what is his now motivation part of it, yes. But if he's not going to call plays on offense, not going to call plays on defense, at least give me the piece you're talking about. Like, he got to be sharper as attack when it's time for 4th down, or when you're kicking these field goals, like execution in a 2-minute drill in the middle 8. Like, you have to be like on those really. We got to be really sharp in those things, because if you're not, because if you are wishy-washy there, why are you wishy-washy there when you're not calling, when you're overseeing the offense, you're not calling the plays on offense, you're overseeing the defense, you're not calling the plays on defense. Like, that's what I worry about with AP, is that part of it. And that's a huge part of it. I think Amy Trask did say something like recently about like I think about AP and Everflus as well. Like there's losses that there's reasons why you lose, and like there you can understand it. But like when you lose games the way the Raiders lost, this week, and the way the Bears lost that game, that's where people like say, hey, take a step back and say, hey, what does the guy who is the head coach know what the fuck he's doing?
I guess my question would be this for the people that want AP to come back. And again, I still think it's about 20%.
Yeah.
What offensive coordinator
Yep.
that's
There we
worth
go.
anything in the National Football
Yep.
League is going to come work for a team with a rookie quarterback and with a coach that's on a lame duck 1 year deal?
Yes.
Um, if you look at the guys, obviously Cliff Kingsbury was one, and he may get a head coaching job after 1 year with Jaden Daniels. Chip Kelly was kind of like the next guy that the Raiders talked a lot about, and then
Yep.
obviously
Ohio
you
State.
have Luke Getsy who he hired. So like the Raiders aren't going to go out there and get a top-notch offensive coordinator. Like there's no one unless they just keep Scott Turner at this point. Like I don't
Mhm.
know if they're going to be able to go out and hire a significant upgrade, someone that you want to hand a top 3 pick in the draft quarterback for the next 2 or 3 years. Um, it's going to be tough to do that, to go out and get a top offensive coordinator, because you're basically looking at offensive coordinators that aren't calling plays for other teams, quarterback coaches around the league, or guys that are unemployed right now. That's
Yep.
basically what you're picking from. Or you go into the college ranks and
Mhm.
getting a college coach that wants to transition to the National Football League.
Yeah, and that's a huge jump for somebody to come do that. So I would say, yeah, I would say that. I mean, you could look in the backyard and try to run the go-go offense from UNLV, and bring him in here. See how that would mention
Hey,
National
Pat
Football League.
Shermer might be available.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
So
kidding, Raiders fans. I'm
yeah, yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
Do
So
not do
yeah,
not hire Pat Shermer.
it's not high pressure. Well, yeah, hey, bring him in. Why not? Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I look at it. I mean, I just don't think the contract makes me think that he's not coming back. So even with and a couple wins here and there down the stretch kind of hurts the Raiders' future because there's not 6 guys this year. It might only be 3 coming out that have first round grades on it. Who knows what happens as far as that
If
goes. Go ahead.
I will say this, if the Raiders would have held on or found a way to beat the Chiefs, they would be picking 8th. So I hear people saying, well, like if they win a game or two, they're still going to pick 3rd or 4th. No, they would drop to
No.
8th. They are going to lose the strength of schedule battle to pretty much every team behind them, maybe
Yeah.
behind Cleveland right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would think, and going into the game they play this week, a tough game on the road in Florida. They go
10 a.m.
face 10 a.m. Personally, I like 10 a.m. because it's nice from the West Coast. You get to get the rest of your day. But for the Raiders, they haven't fared well in that. What are your thoughts about them going facing the Bucks? The Bucks are trying to do what they did last year, out to a bad start, finish strong, make the playoffs. I believe they're in there with the Atlanta loss. They're tied for first place now. I think.
I think they're
Um,
5-6. If I'm
5 and 6, or maybe, or I'll check real quick. I think maybe they could be a game
they're
behind,
behind.
but
I think the Falcons have 6 wins. I could be
yeah.
wrong.
Either way, they're right there for they can win the division. And their thought process is winning the division because they can't make the playoffs as a wild card. Tough matchup. They get Michael Evans back. You saw his impact in the Carolina game. What are your thoughts about the Raiders going at the Bucks here?
I think it's a tough matchup, honestly, because I think the strength of that Bucks team is obviously their running game with the 3 running backs they have. They have a 3-headed monster, and Bucky Irving, the rookie out of Oregon's had a
Playing
tremendous,
playing
tremendous
great,
year.
playing great. Yeah.
The Chiefs didn't try to run the ball for some reason against the Raiders. I think there were 2 running backs at 7 carries each, and they were up most of the game. Um, I think the Buccaneers will try to establish the run. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator, does a great job of incorporating the tight ends. Kate Otton's going to be a problem over the middle of the field. The Raiders, Diablo and Spillane haven't covered anybody in about 6 weeks. So I think you're going to have issues there. And then how do they match up with Mike Evans? They're probably Bennett's out, so now you're looking at Cameron Richardson, who really struggled the last couple of weeks, and Jack Jones, who just physically Jack Jones doesn't have the size or the strength to win 50-50 balls or red zone. or even break up slants with a guy that size. So the Raiders have a matchup problem here against the offense. I do think defensively that the interior of the defensive line could give the Raiders problems along their offensive line. When you talk about Vita Vea, who's tough to move in the run game, is they still have Levante David running around there. Clancy, the second year guy out of Pitt, the interior rushers had a good last few weeks. I do think they're vulnerable outside. I do think the Raiders can move the ball through the air as long as the pass protection holds up. I think the Raiders offensive line had their best game of the week last week against the Chiefs. So I do think the Raiders offense is going to be able to move the ball, especially if they commit to running the ball with McCormick a little bit. They just can't draw back and throw the ball 40, 45 times against this Bucs team. They need to control the ball. They need to keep the ball away from the Bucs. They need to have long drives, and they need to punch it in. They need touchdowns. I think they can keep it close for 2.5 quarters. I do think at the end of the day, the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, it's just too much for the Raiders to handle right now. And the Raiders still have a ton of injuries.
Yeah, no question about it too. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the Bucs in this game, but the Bucs are actually 6-6, so they have the same record as the Falcons. So the Falcons, fresh off of. Do you remember a worse interception than Kirk Cousins? That little lollipop throw he threw in the back of the end zone. That was pretty bad. That was Carr-like. That was pretty bad.
Jameis had a couple last night.
Jameis has ones. So he has some ones where he's looking right at you the whole time as a defender, and he just still throws it to him. I don't even. But he's entertaining. He's entertaining.
He's praying to the Lord to free him from pick sixes. So maybe he will get free.
Maybe he will get free. With that being said, like I said, the Raiders are. I mean, what are they? 7-point underdogs to this game? Is that 7 points?
I think it was 6.5 or 7 points.
7 points game to the Bucs. So we'll see what happens. See what happens there. Tough place to play. The Raiders don't usually play well at 10 a.m. or in Florida. So we'll see what happens there. But I think they hang around for a little bit. But I think that at the end of the day, Bulls and that defense
bring pressure too.
Oh, he's coming. He's not sitting back and waiting for he's trying to go to the playoffs back-to-back years. So we all know that. So speaking of a guy who hired back-to-back offensive coordinators, who's a defensive coach, right? I mean, Bulls did that. I mean, right now he might lose another one to a head coaching job here coming up. I don't know if you saw that game with the Panthers, but I think down the stretch, I think Cohen had some that reverse out of nowhere. Like, I mean, he has some really he's pretty good. And people are talking about him as well. And as head coaching candidates pop up, I just want to talk about a couple of them before we go. One was Cohen, and one was the Notre Dame head coach. I think the people are really pushing that Marcus Freeman train to National Football League big time right now. What are your thoughts about first Cohen, and then we can talk about Marcus Freeman?
Cohen had spent time, obviously, I believe, with the Rams with Sean McVay, so that's kind of where he comes from. That's his background. Then he went to University of Kentucky, then went back to the National Football League. So he's running that kind of that McVay system. He's done wonders with an offense that's had a ton of injuries. Chris Godwin's been hurt. Mike Evans was out for a while. They have 3 different running backs that they can give the ball to. The offensive line's had injuries. Cade Otton's kind of come out of nowhere, and Baker Mayfield's had a pretty good year. So I think watching the Buccaneers offense, they're able to exploit the whole field. They can throw it down the field. They can get the ball into the flats. They can get the ball to multiple running backs. They can get the ball to the tight end. There's some movement to the system here. But they do run the ball very well. That's something I think that kind of gets overlooked when you start talking about the Bucs, because everyone wants to talk about Mayfield and Evans. They run the football. And that's something that the Raiders are going to have to stop. I think with Marcus Freeman, that's the first I've heard of Marcus Freeman to the NFL. I would probably go a different route if I was the Raiders. Bringing in a guy that he has a defensive background, is a college coach, without being able to come in and really grow that quarterback. I would think more along the lines, and I'm not saying the Raiders, I would think if I was going to go after a college coach, I'd probably lean more Dan Lanning. If I could get Dan Lanning as an NFL owner, I'm not saying he's a fit with the Raiders, but if I wanted to go get a college coach, I think what Dan Lanning has done in Oregon is tremendous.
Yeah, I would say this with Marcus Freeman too is like he's definitely a name that's being pushed because you had Peter Schrager put his name out there on a list, and also Jonathan Jones, who covers NFL, who's a good follow, covers NFL for CBS Sports. So like when they went through the list of names, they both talked about like how the NFL teams are looking for they want the Lions head coach part two. They want the CEO coach. That's what everybody keeps talking about, which I think is very interesting. As far as that goes, the CEO coach who sits back and lets the coordinators do their thing or whatever that perception is for NFL teams.
Dan Campbell might win a Super Bowl this year, and
Yeah,
kudos to Dan Campbell for that. But like, if you take the 30,000 foot view of the Lions, what would the Lions be without Ben Johnson? And then what would they be without Brad Holmes? Brad Holmes went out and got them Jared Goff, who Ben Johnson's turned into a very good quarterback. That roster is loaded up and down as far as the offensive line, the two running backs, the wide receivers. Um, and then obviously with the defense, Aaron Glenn's done a good job with the defense. It doesn't have a bunch of household names, and they've been without Aiden Hutchinson, but specifically looking at that team, it's a near elite roster, a really good general manager that came over from the Rams. They have a veteran quarterback that went to the Super Bowl before they traded for him. And they have the hottest offensive coordinator the last couple of years in the National Football League. So
yeah,
I know everyone wants that CEO type coach, but what other organizations can provide all of those other resources? And we're talking about the Lions, who've been a laughing stock forever. So it's
yeah,
not impossible.
yeah.
It can happen, but like they've basically struck gold on every move they've made in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and I do think and the one reason why I think I've been talking in spaces about like hey, in the NFC really watch the Eagles here because they're playing really good football, and I keep watching the Lions, and Aaron Glenn is doing miracle work as far as that defense goes because they lose a defensive lineman every week. Like it's every week. I mean, they're gonna call me and you soon. Like I mean, it's bad. Like it really. I mean, he's really losing a lot of people every week, and I know they score a lot of points a lot of times, so like they can maybe mask it a little bit. But like these games are gonna get closer and closer as far as the playoffs go. They're 6-0 at home, so we all know how good they are in their building. But I would say teams, a big physical team like the Eagles could really give them all they want as far as that goes in the playoffs if they ever got there as well. So just some kind of food for thought as far as NFC goes.
No, definitely. If you can control the line of scrimmage against the Lions, easier said than done. But if you can control the line of scrimmage, keep the ball away from that offense, dominate time of possession, and score in the red zone, and you don't have to play catch up, and you're not trying to
Yeah.
chase 14, 15, 17 points, because they remind me a lot of not in the way that they're built and how physical they are, but the old Colts teams where like the whole goal was to
Yes.
get ahead and
And
then
then
make everyone play
it's
catch up.
over. It's over. Yeah.
Um, and once they get the lead, they can run the football with that offensive line. So um, you have to be able to be physical in the trenches, which the Eagles have a very good offensive line and they have a good interior defensive line. I don't think they have the edge rushers that they've had in the past. I don't think the linebackers are as good as they've been in the past, and they have a young secondary. So I still think the defense is coming together. But the Eagles are the team in the NFC that could give them a run for their money. When you start thinking about physical teams, I think the 49ers at this point aren't going to be in the mix. And who knows what happens with that Brock Purdy contract. That's going to be a big talking point all offseason. Brock Purdy truthers, I haven't heard from him in a long time.
Yeah. I
We'll
mean,
see what happens. And now they've lost
yeah.
Christian McCaffrey again.
And Jordan Mason.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
think that any of the NFC West teams are on the same level as the Lions or the Eagles. And I don't. The Commanders have been a good story. I don't think when it comes down to it in January that they're going to be able to win on the road against either one of those teams. And then when you look to maybe the Packers can. If the Packers on the right day could beat both of those teams, so I
They
wouldn't
could.
say
They
no
could.
to
They
the
could.
Packers because they have
100%.
Josh Jacobs and the
Yep.
defense has played a lot better. So I'd say the dark horse in the NFC to upset those teams would be the Packers. But
Yep.
Jordan Love's got to stop turning over the ball too.
Yep, and then yeah, he can stop turning over the ball, and I can tell you, man, for all these guys who wanted to tell me that Josh was done and whatever. Josh he's definitely got it going on with that. Good for him for play. I'm excited to see him play in a playoff game, like for Josh Jacobs. Like he's deserving of that. So good for him.
I would
as
add
far
to
as that
that
is.
that the number of people on Twitter that when you talk about Bo Nix or Josh Jacobs, they wouldn't do that with the Raiders. Like that's just their comeback to everyone. Whenever a player's good somewhere else, they wouldn't do it here.
Oh my
Like
god!
we need to
Like
stop living in that world
yes,
too.
yeah.
Josh Jacobs was a
You
good
can't do
player with
that.
the
Yeah,
Raiders.
you can't say that.
We,
You can't say that.
we wanted to keep him in the offseason because when we talked about it back in January and February
Mhm.
before free agency, if you're not paying the quarterback, pay everyone else. And they let him go, and the Raiders gambled, and clearly that backfired because Zamir White and Alexander Madison have been nowhere near up to the challenge of Josh Jacobs, who's probably headed to another Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, no question. All right, real quick, just on a rap music thing. There's a Bay Area rapper named La Russell. I absolutely love this dude. He's incredible. They did a his newest video. He has um he if you remember the Marshawn Lynch driving through the Cal Stadium. They did the whole video just like that, which is like pretty funny with Marshawn Lynch, and the Russell in the little truck is actually pretty hilarious. So so if you're looking for some new music, I would definitely check that out. I mean, you gotta put the Kendrick to the side for at least some minute for some 5 minutes, so you can listen to some Russell. Get some new music out there for you as well. All right, Raider Nation. You got score prediction. I'm thinking 27-13.
Good 24-17 Tampa.
So it's a touchdown. Okay, touchdown. All right, we'll see. All right, Raider Nation. We're out. Take care. Have a great day.